This is me, my avatar, and I, rebuilding reality. It's my pleasure to welcome back our moderator, the founder of Web in Travel, Yeoh Hoon.
Thank you, thank you. Well, here we are, rotated back again. And it's going to be a great session because it's about avatars. So it's a very cool topic. And as you can see, my panelists and I got the memo this morning that we need to dress alike. So please welcome my panelists. First of all, we have Blake Chandley from TikTok. We have Mario Enzesberger from Liberty International Tourism Group. We have Muzzammil Ahussain from Almosafer. And we have Jeremy Jauncey from Beautiful Destinations. So now, I thought since this is about avatars and storytelling, we're going to get them to tell us a story, all right? So tell us your own story briefly, something authentic about you that's not on social media. And I know for Jeremy, it will be impossible because I know everything about him on social media. But Jeremy, tell us something about yourself that's not out on social media.
Yeah, no, that is very hard, given that our whole business is social media, our whole career has been built around social media. I guess probably the most relevant, and maybe for the conversation in terms of a story, is that we did begin with a single post on Instagram at a time when we had absolutely no idea really how to build that into a business and how that could be influential in tourism. So I'd say the most authentic story to me really is actually having a belief that you can start something and build a big, meaningful business with a single post on social. And I know we're going to go into that in a lot more detail, but that's probably where I'd start.
Okay, so it started with a single post. Muzzammil, something about you.
Similarly to Jeremy, I think it's hard to find something about us or the company or myself that's not on social media. But we started also on Twitter. Almosafer started as a social media booking platform. And personally for me, I think being in the region now for almost 15 years has been so much passion and that's coming out of tourism, and this is just a great example of what's happening.
Okay. Mario, what about you?
What's not on social media about me is not so difficult. Basically, nobody knows Liberty. My company is 34 years old, and I'm living in Africa, but I'm Austrian. And my company started basically when the communist system in Europe, in East Europe, broke apart. So I was young and fresh at this time, and I thought to myself, okay, this is the chance to make my own company. I moved to East Europe and lived there for 10 years. Very interesting transformation from communism to capitalism. Was a very good time, and that was the start of my company and fulfillment of my dreams.
Fantastic. From the European East to the Middle East. Blake, what about you?
So I've spent the last 18 years in social media, first helping launch Facebook across the world back in 2006, and then TikTok more recently for the last 6 or 7 years. I am a tourism neophyte, meaning I don't know as much as anybody in this room probably. And yet I sit on the board of TOURISE, which is amazing. I think I bring a different perspective.
What's your TikTok handle?
Blake Chandley.
All right, okay. So the other thing is, having an avatar is something that maybe we all dream about. And I don't know if you guys are into fantasy, but there is a beautiful novel by Philip Pullman who wrote The Dark Materials and the Dust, right? And in that novel, basically he imagined that every human had a daemon, which is kind of like an avatar. This book was written like 20 years ago and he saw the future. And a daemon is basically an inner manifestation of your inner self in the form of an animal. So, Jeremy, imagine if you had an avatar, what would it look like? Maybe you can use an animal, and what would its superpower be?
Oh, wow. Well, I mean, from everything that we've seen in social and on our channels, just being as authentic and real to myself, I think is probably the best way to go, honestly. I would be a very true representation of what I believe, that travel is a force for good, and that if you use the right kind of channels, you can influence millions of people. And particularly in this region, where travel has exploded through social media, I'd have an avatar that reflected that.
So your avatar would look like you, be like you, and talk like you?
Yes.
Okay. Muzzammil.
I would love to have an avatar or my avatar to be in more than one place at one time, because right now there's so much going on in tourism in the region, and it's hard to do all we're doing in one place.
Right. So your superpower would be teleportation, basically. Okay, Mario.
If I would be an avatar, I live in Africa, I would be a lion. Because the lion,
lion.
First of all, the lion is the king of the jungle, so no problems. Secondly, I would eat the whole day, and 20 hours of the day I would sleep. If I would be a human avatar, would have a human avatar, he would gliding through life, no check-in lines, flights always on time, weather perfect, the transfer on time, and the hotel room is ready as a pure fantasy.
A robot, basically. Okay. Blake, what about you?
Mario, you look like a lion, actually. That's a very good reflection. That was good. I don't know. I think as a human avatar, I'm super curious and love just to gather knowledge. And so understanding kind of the world's knowledge would probably be a superpower. I would
Curiosity,
like
basically.
Curiosity is probably my number one attribute.
Okay.
And so from an animal perspective, it would be whatever animal is inquisitive.
Okay, all right. Okay, so now we get into the huge content blur, right? I mean, like, there's so much what we call AI slop out there. It's hard to tell what's fake from real. So we're going to talk about how that's sort of impacting social media, impacting your business, right? Because it says there basically that generative AI tools are already being tried by millions of travelers. The adoption is really, really high. So we have OTAs now that are basically who are transaction focused, moving into inspiration, right? And then we have social platforms like TikTok moving into transactions. So let's talk about the traveler behavior that you're seeing and how they're engaging with you.
Yeah, of course. So obviously, I'm very biased, but I do think we are living in possibly the most exciting time ever in the history of the world to be in travel marketing, building destinations and selling this industry, because we're seeing this massive shift in the way consumers are discovering travel, planning travel, and ultimately booking travel, with so much influence now coming out of what they do on social. And again, everyone here in this region is so familiar with using social as that first phase of discovery in the travel process. Certainly what we're seeing with our audiences is that a lot of them now are moving into much, much deeper uses of social platforms as they go further into the travel booking process. So we're seeing individuals within direct messages sending each other videos, actually moving into the planning phase of travel whilst they still stay within social. And Blake will know better than anyone what we've seen over in China, where they have for such a long time actually seen that top of the funnel inspiration move into planning and ultimately move into booking, because social commerce is so ubiquitous in Chinese social media. And I think we will see that kind of coming over to this part of the world as well. So one of the most interesting trends that we're seeing is the blend between AI search and social search. So maybe some people in the room might have done this, but we're seeing a lot more consumers going into large language models and searching for itineraries. Those itineraries come back to them in written form, and then they take what they see in written form, and then they put that into social media so they can see videos of what that experience is. And that is a fundamentally different way for a traveler to discover your destination or your hotel, when you think about maybe the last 20 years being dominated by those single blue links of Google. So it is requiring a fundamentally different approach to how you market and how you think about acquiring customers as these two forces come together.
Yeah, I think somebody sort of described it as it's becoming like a pinball game, you know, where you go this way and then it shoots all over a place before it comes into that funnel. So before I go to you for your answers, I'm just going to do an audience poll here and ask them, like, what do you think will have the biggest impact on how we discover and choose destinations in the next 5 years? So we can put up the poll, and we can look at, and if you would answer, like, you know, is it social platforms? Is it virtual immersive experiences? Is it AI recommendations? Or is it human creators and word of mouth? What would you pick?
So I watched your earlier panel, and someone said all of the above, and you forced them to choose one, which I think was the appropriate thing to do.
Yeah.
So I think that if 84% of all of the millennials and Gen Z use social media to make travel decisions, right? That's a significant number that's going to affect the industry for years to come, decades to come.
So
right?
social platforms.
So I think social platforms, which is a combination of friends and so on.
Mario?
I mean, naturally, social platforms, social media will be dominant, because end of the day, our life changed dramatically, and unfortunately, we are only having the screen in our face, and so the information is turning totally into social media in any way. It might change a little bit because, you know, between the perspective, the arrival, DMCs like me have then to make it happen that the reality is fitting to the social media, which not always is easy. So this is a difference what we have. Word of mouth will be very strong also, and we also have to see the demography of the travelers. Nationality is a big point. An Asian has a total different interest in traveling like an European. Vice versa, an American has total other dreams and fantasies like Middle East has. So this is another component which is not so much thought over in the moment because we put everything in one way. But this will be, in my opinion, the biggest influencer.
Okay. Muzzammil?
So I think that social platforms are going to be the primary way to communicate human content creators, recommendations, and virtual immersive experiences, but the primary vehicle will be through the social platform.
Okay. And of course, you're going to say that.
Yeah, I'm biased. I absolutely agree. But I think more, maybe more importantly, it's very exciting to have this conversation in a room like this, where for so many years, social media had been considered as an afterthought within marketing, and really now I think we're understanding how pivotally important it is to the marketing ecosystem within travel. So the extension of that question then is how do you be successful on social media? What do you actually need to do? And more specifically, how do you make the content that's going to drive top of the funnel awareness, and then planning, and then booking, and then really getting deep into the different types of content formats that work on different platforms?
Yeah, but you know, I mean, so the audience kind of agrees with what you're saying, but clearly there is a blend between social platforms, but then AI recommendations that come through social platforms probably, and human creators and word of mouth that actually also utilize social platforms. So social platforms sit at the top. Okay, so Blake, I think it is safe to say like everybody knows TikTok, right? And how much time do you spend on it yourself?
It goes through peaks and valleys. When I'm traveling, quite a bit, actually. Okay.
So tell us what are some of the top traveler trends you're seeing on Travel Talk, and some insights that would interest the audience here.
So I think a lot of it has been discussed through various forms here. I think experiential, meaning they're different. There's luxury, there's commerce travel, there's adventure travel. This concept of these kind of micro travels is a big part of the trends we're seeing. Okay. Moving those from, sharing those within friends has been a trend we've seen for years, all the way back to the Instagram days. And then obviously the connecting to commerce and connecting to the actual, how do you then plan and buy, is probably the biggest single trend.
So theme travel is still a big thing, and then how to connect that with the commerce. Okay. And Jeremy, I mean, so you now have, you've been building beautiful destinations from one single post. You have 50 million plus viewers. You have partnerships such as with OTAs such as Expedia, and you're making their Instagram posts bookable, right? So do you see really a shift happening from scrolls to clicks and buys instantly? Are you seeing that?
Yes and no. So on the one hand, what we've seen is the reality is you don't post a piece of content on social and immediately drive a transaction. It's not like you see in fashion or beauty, and I think that's fairly obvious to everyone in the room, that it's a considered purchase with multiple touch points and multiple stakeholders, no matter what the trip is, let alone considering the cost implications. So what we're seeing is that social media now is fulfilling the roles of the multiple different touch points that in the past we might have used, where maybe the journey might have begun on traditional TV, and then moved into offline print, and then gone to multiple different websites, and then gone to booking. What we're seeing now is because so much is kind of coalescing around the direct message and the actual functionality within the social platforms, that you can link to transactions from within the platform, and you can drive sales. And again, as I said, we're taking a lot of the lead from what we see with companies like Yeoh in China, who really have found a way to pull those two things together with rich, engaging social video and a booking functionality. I do believe that's the direction that we're going in, and you're seeing the Expedias and the Booking.coms and the Klooks and others going in that direction as well.
But I guess the argument is, travel is not like buying a bottle of shampoo, right? It's a much more complex buy. Do you see some conversions happening more for certain kinds of products over others?
Yeah, so
what's converting the best?
At the moment, it's short weekend itineraries, and I think that's largely because they're lower cost and they can be more impulsive. So if I live in a major metropolitan city and I see a video that shows me the top 5 things to do in the 3 cities that are within a 2-hour flight, I'm far more likely to respond to that, and certainly we're seeing our audience respond really, really well to that. We're moving away from the general positioning of beautiful, inspirational content. I think that's been done, and there are many destinations around the world who have built their initial brands on being Instagram worthy. Now what we're seeing is a lot of emerging destinations who are coming out and telling more of a deeper story, again, still through social, but is much more focused on the practical itineraries, the planning, the things that you need to do, and bringing that into life in content versus just the beautiful sunset or the beautiful drone.
So less about dreaming, but more about doing, actually, and doing stuff. Okay.
Can I add one thing?
Sure.
So one big thing that we're seeing, I should have said it before, is when people are landing into a city, first thing they're doing is searching. One of the things we're seeing, especially with Gen Z millennials, they're saying, what is the best restaurant to find in this city? And they're using TikTok and social to do that, whereas they historically might have gone to Google and done that. And they're still using Google, so I'm not trying to dismiss that platform, but the rise in mobile searches for local hospitality, specifically restaurants, has become significant.
Right. I mean, in my conversations with other OTAs, I think one of the, and Muzzammil, I'll come to you with the next question, is the fact that, travelers are now searching by vibe versus features or products or dates, right? And it's kind of hard to build vibe into a booking engine, right? So Muzzammil, how are you as an OTA thinking about that?
Yeah, I think, what we're trying to do is create a flexible way for people to explore recommendations and searches. Before it's very much if-then filter-based search. Now it should be more contextualized search. So what are the best hotels for my family in Dubai or in Saudi or in Riyadh or in Alula? So that's what we're trying to move towards. Let the people get more flexibility in their searching and their filtering about a recommendation, as well as providing experiences of what to do when they're in the destination.
Right. So your content has become a lot more practical as well in Almosafer, and you work with influencers clearly to create.
Yeah, and I think it's more about the micro-influencer, real, human, authentic content creators, not necessarily the large-scale influencers that are purely for commercial purposes. It's about really authenticity. So authenticity is really important, whether it's a large or a mega or a micro-influencer, but the authenticity of the experience they're sharing about their travel.
Yeah, we're seeing a similar trend in Southeast Asia, actually, where the trend seems to be more the nano influencers that are actually converting more than sort of the super high influencers. So Mario, you are a DMC, you deal with really things on the ground where the rubber hits the road, right? And all these platforms have promised your customers beautiful things, sunsets always on and everything, right? But you have to deal with the client on the ground. So, and traveler expectations are sky high, right? Everybody wants it instant, everybody wants it affordable, everybody wants it wonderful. How's that changing the game for you on how you handle travelers on the ground?
It changes quite in a big time because everybody nowadays arrives with a big digital dream. And we have to put this dream in reality. And we also have a little bit to compromise, sorry to say, that certain things are not as they are. Also, it depends on age groups, demography, as we said, it's very different. So we try to take it silently in the back office, that we input all the new tools, what we can do, that we try to understand, that we also be informed and to really transform it in a certain way. In the ideal world, guys like me should work more with you guys together to get the real authenticity of a thing, because AI cannot fake empathy, cannot fake laughter, cannot fake emotions in a certain way. So it's something which we have also to see and also to categorize it in a certain way. We have different generations, we have different interests of people, and we have to put this all together.
Yeah, because, between all of you, you have to really manage the expectations of the traveler, because there's nothing worse than a traveler that comes with super dreams and then, doesn't get the things that they are promised, right? So somehow the industry has to work together to manage expectations and not just raise them all the time.
Yes, and I have to congratulate TOURISE for what you did here, because this is the first touristic platform in the last times. We had a powwow in the States, which was quite good, but the first time where really all different guys come together. We never met, so it's something where the different worlds doing the same thing could interact in a certain way, then also to put something together to create more perfect experience for the clients. And we also want to have a client feel good. And the feel good is something which we are then having to do on the ground. Secondly, if you take, for example, I have safari lodges, I have conservation areas in Africa, we now start to put so-called live cameras. Till now we couldn't, because Wi-Fi, internet in the bush was not existing. Now Fortunate, unfortunate, I don't know. We have Starlink as one. I don't make advertisement here, but this helps us to be on. So we can now make also live cameras to really see what you can expect on a waterhole, from bush life, from whatsoever it's happening. And that's definitely also a help to get the dream realized, and their social media is a perfect platform then.
Okay. So now I want to tackle with the shift in content. I think Jeremy and Muzzammil, you talked about the shift in content where people, they don't want to just dream, they want practical bite-sized insights to plan their trips, right? And I'm going to ask the audience for the poll. Can we flash the poll? And it's like, what will matter most now in the future travel experiences? Is it authenticity and trust? Is it personalization and relevance? Is it accessibility and inclusivity? Is it immersion and creativity? What do you think, each of you? What's the most important? What will matter most, you think, as we go forward?
I mean, obviously they're all very, very important, but I think continuing on this idea of authenticity and trust in a world where maybe you can't always be 100% sure that the content you're seeing is real with AI. We have leaned very, very heavily into the use of AI as a platform to scale content versus a platform to make original content. So our business is still very much rooted in the idea there are hundreds of thousands of content creators around the world who can act like mini production companies that can make content faster, cheaper, at a greater scale than the traditional way the industry's made content. That's the core of our business, and it always will be. But what we found is that then combining that with technology, when you take that content and actually when you practically use it, you should be getting the content that you would put on organic social media and running it in your paid ads. So when you do advertising and you run this paid media, looking at the data and then responding very quickly to change the content is often impractical if you have to do a physical shoot. We hear this a lot from our clients where they might find that a certain piece of content is converting very, very well, and in the current ecosystem, you'd have to go back and shoot that, which can take many days and be expensive and slow. Whereas with AI, you can adapt that content very, very quickly. You can run multivariate testing with lots of pieces of content versus just one. So that's how I think authenticity and trust will be.
Well, I mean, AI does a lot of things better than humans, right? So let's go to the answer and see what the audience thinks. And because currently, in the age of AI slop, I think trust is the most valuable currency that the travel industry needs to preserve and protect, because it is ours to win and lose, right? So we are in this
and I
together.
think it's also about, as we said earlier, making sure that what you see is what you get. So you set the right expectation for the traveler when they go to visit a hotel, a destination, or an airport.
Right. And authenticity cannot be faked from AI. And this is the point that people want. Touch, feel, see, smell. We have this always more as request from the people. Hands-on, not only being driven through something, that explanation, deep down, more background. That's the point of the new traveler, what he's wanting to have. Instagrammable, yes, but it's not the main issue for a ride.
So let's go to TikTok now. I mean, you're giving your creators amazing AI tools, to create content really quickly. And are you seeing any disenchantment, you think, with AI content? Because I hear that from some of our travel brands that are using AI, and they say there is some AI fatigue settling in, that people are starting to be able to say, oh, this is AI, I don't trust it. Are you seeing?
Yeah. So I think that all the platforms are building these tools into their experience for their creators, right? And we built a number of different capabilities in that allow our creators to create avatars, if you will, or likenesses of themselves, and to use that to, whether it's translation services or a variety of different things, to expand their reach, expand their business and their capabilities. I think that the concept of these avatars and AI in this environment, right, is still relatively new. And I think that as we're continuing, and I think it will continue, I'm a big believer in where the future goes, both in travel and outside travel with regards to this technology. I think that as long as we're being authentic and trustworthy with it, and that we're letting people know that this is AI content, the biggest challenge comes when there's concern, or someone goes, is that AI or not? Right?
So is there a disclaimer on every video that says this video was made by?
Yeah, I mean, that is where the industry has to go. Like, it has to be a disclaimer, this is AI.
It's like content, an AI protocol that says this content has been made.
Right.
I mean, there's a new movie that's been made, I think, and actually, I think it's the first time that a movie actually said, that this movie was made entirely by humans. You know, so we're seeing those kind of disclaimers.
It's very scary.
So how else do you think the industry, you know, so Mario, Muzzammil, and Jeremy, is like, how else do you think the industry can ensure that we don't drown in a sea of AI slop and people start to mistrust our content?
This danger is very real because it's coming always more that end of the day, the expectation is a total different one when you arrive. And as more AI can do things and make things nicer and better, as more reality hits in a certain way. What we have to do, like TikToks and the other guys, to really give authentic information about the destination, and that definitely would help because then we can really inform a client in a proper way. And there I see AI as a perfect tool, I see social platform as a perfect tool, and we have to now get to reality that we have to put all these kind of people together to really tell the real story, and then it's fitting.
I think it's also about making sure there's not information or AI content overload. You want to make sure that the content's being produced, whether it's real AI or AI supported, is that it's relevant, it's not just, it has purpose, not just for the sake of being there. It's got to be useful and purposeful.
And we have an interesting thing within the company, because of course we are linked with an AI startup to test in our group what can be done, what is helpful, because I think AI will be fantastic for us in a lot of ways, perfect. We only have to get it right and to do it right. But on the other side, you know, we came with the idea, one guy came with this and said, okay, we make newsletters a year ago. Newsletters? Yes, newsletters, in a way sending out. We said, okay, let's have a try. And surprisingly, the clicking rate on our newsletters is extremely high, where the experts from the destination per se write their experience about this season in, I don't know, in Kyrgyzstan is happening A. In Paris, this is new, which you can do.
Right. I wonder if, you know, okay, so we are talking about content that is purposeful, useful, and then, but you say authentic. I mean, everybody uses that word, but how do you actually know it's authentic? So almost you need a seal of authenticity, like a rating, right? A rating of how authentic, and verification is going to be important, and disclaimers. Jeremy, how are you thinking about that? Because you deal with so much content.
Yeah, so I think we come at it from the other side of the equation, which is something that's often forgotten when we talk about the travel marketing side of it, which is, look, we've got to give the consumers credit. We are in service of consumers. They will respond to the content that they want to respond to, and we see it instantaneously, that if content is too AI-driven, it won't perform, and it won't work. And so fundamentally, the tools that we have with social media and content creation are in service of consumers. They tell us very, very quickly the kind of content they resonate with, and I think that we will get to a place very, very quickly that if too much content is AI or fake or unreal, it just will stop converting, and ultimately you get instantaneous feedback when you run this kind of advertising, and also when you run organic content on your social channels as to what's working and what's not. The way I think AI becomes really powerful is to double down and scale on what is working versus completely replace the content creation process. And again, you have real-time information from the social platforms when you post that content. So I think consumers will tell us.
Right, so consumers will decide the content that they want in the end, and that will be our regulation.
I don't know, but I think the regulation, each of the platforms today requires disclaimers on AI-generated content, whether it be TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, like we all have disclaimers, and we all pull down content that doesn't comply with that. Okay. Now that's hard to do at scale. When you're talking about billions and billions of pieces of content on a daily basis, but I think the industry in and of itself believes that there's got to be some regulation of that and disclaimers on that. Otherwise, users won't know what they're seeing or not seeing. And that, yes, they will eventually vote with their wallet or their clicks or whatever it might be. But I think we do have an obligation to make sure that we're notifying people of the.
So I wonder, like in this age, to the point of authenticity and trust, right? Whether the human actually becomes the premium experience, right? So in the earlier panel, we had Virtuoso, that basically said that the power of the travel advisor, the human travel advisor, has absolutely risen, and people value the travel advisor a lot more, like 99.5% satisfaction rating with the humans. So I wonder if how you're thinking about it is where people actually pay more to interact with a human.
Yes, I mean there's definitely a big group of
versus avatars, like
Yes.
dealing with humans versus
Yes,
avatars.
but it's a big group of people which believe on somebody who knows the destination, who knows the hotel, who knows the experience. I just come back from America. I was 2 weeks visiting clients around, specialists, such guys who really the people trust in. So they, and also it's an age group. They don't want to go there. It's also income group. So somebody who has no budget problems and want to have the authentic, total, perfect experience goes to an advisor who really knows and is known to be a specialist, who is rated maybe from Condé Nast or whatsoever. So that's still a strong part. And after COVID, they had a renaissance in this matter. Because after COVID, while COVID, a lot of people which didn't book a package, booked online, lost their money. Nothing back, flights, everything, it was gone. If you have a package, you were protected in a certain way. So there's a renaissance in this way, but I think still the online is not to be stopped. It only has to be put in a certain way that it can cooperate with the ones who deliver what they promise and to be perfect. And also the advisor will still be there, because the advisor will also be the one who still has the experience to know where to go.
Right.
If I go here around, they say, from Africa, can you tell me, I would like to go to Kenya, where should I go? This is naturally, because you cannot get, if this is your taste, only online.
Do you think this will be true across
I think,
generations?
so for us, for example, we have been fully omni-channel since 2019. We have online capabilities, physical stores, WhatsApp, call center, and every customer has, depending on their need of their trip, might have a different experience. I think where AI will help is that even if it's an offline experience with the travel advisor, AI will help the travel advisor be more productive, give their better recommendations, aligned with their personal experience as well. So I think it's going to enable the journey. There may be people who want to do fully AI supported bookings, and there may be for the same customer, but for a different trip, they want to do it fully online. And I think our role is to create all the capabilities and let the customer choose what's the right support for their booking, depending on that trip.
Okay, so now let's talk about lessons from other universes and the new tech that's coming, right? And some people see it like the future is wearable. I mean, there are amazing glasses. Meta's come up with glasses now, which I have. So the future could be wearables, and how content will move there, and how are you seeing the future? Jeremy, let's start with you.
Absolutely agree. I think there is a very exciting whole world developing around virtual tourism, and Blake and I were talking about it backstage, that it might be really the kind of next evolution for travelers, where traveling from one side of the world to the other side of the world is expensive. It is time consuming, and if the technology was at a good enough stage where it could show you what that might be like, would you spend thousands and thousands of dollars initially to do the trip, or maybe you might test it in a virtual world for a much, much smaller budget? I do think the technology is getting to that, and maybe 4 or 5 years ago, where we had the first iterations of the metaverse, the technology wasn't there. There was certainly a stigma around what that looked like, both from a hardware standpoint, because the hardware was very intrusive, but also from a content standpoint, where you didn't actually see that much content being made. So I think there's a couple of areas where the combination of the commercial opportunity and then the adoption from consumers still needs to move a little bit further ahead before it becomes mass. But yes, I think absolutely. we'll move in that
They're
direction.
definitely less clunky now, right?
Yeah, I don't think our view is that it's not going to replace travel, my personal view, but I think it's going to make travel better.
Yeah.
So think about the use of headsets like the Meta glasses when you're in a destination to learn more about the history. Think about the AirPods that now translate live. So I think that's going to make travel much more accessible and people to enjoy destinations much better.
Right. Is TikTok thinking about building content for wearables?
I mean, ByteDance, the parent company of TikTok, is already in that space, right? And so,
And what's the adoption?
I agree. I mean, the adoption is similar to what we're seeing with Meta, so Meta products. I think that the AR, VR world is coming. I think it's just going to provide accessibility to a much larger audience. I mean, we're talking about 8 billion people on this planet, right? Right now, a very small percentage has the ability to travel in a way that we all travel, right? And so, as we think about providing those experiences and access to travel virtually, I just think it could potentially be now, it's not in 2026 or 2027, but I think we look out 10 years where the industry's going, you'd like for every person on the planet to be able to travel.
Yeah, I mean, and actually is the gaming and entertainment platforms. I mean, they've mastered the art of building emotional connection with their customers. Do you think, what lessons can travel brands learn from, games like Fortnite? or Roblox. What are some of the qualities that we could learn from them?
I mean, there are some travel brands who are playing in those areas, and ultimately it comes back to the same story that we told 10 years ago about social media, which is go where consumer attention is, understand what it is that you need to do to be relevant where the consumer attention is, and then build the capacity in your organization to make the content at the scale you need to fill those platforms. And within the gaming platforms, you've got people 24/7 within these virtual worlds that are just rich with content. And now we're getting to a place in travel where we're doing the same in social media. But I think that's the most obvious thing that we can think about.
Okay, so a yes or no to the next question, because we're going to have wrap up. Yes or no, should tourism boards build an entire universe on virtual?
Yes.
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 A resounding yes. Okay, so we're going to wrap up. One-word answers for this wrap-up. Is like, Jeremy, I'll go to you first. Which will change travel more in the next 20 years? Will it be AI, will it be climate change, or will it be space tourism?
AI.
Okay. Muzzammil, what's one travel experience that won't exist in 20 years?
Checking into a hotel.
Sorry?
Checking into a hotel.
Okay. Mario, name a destination, since you're a DMC, name a destination that no one's talking about now, what will be really hot in 20 years?
20 years is a long time, I think.
Okay, 10 years.
We are too fast. Let's take 10 years. Central Asia.
Central Asia, okay. And Blake, what's one travel experience you think will be the coolest and most awesome 10 years from now?
I think space travel.
Space travel. All right. Please join me in thanking my panelists, Jeremy, Muzzammil, Mario, and Blake. Thank you.